My name is Robert Josephson. I am co-owner of Mayhem Comics and Games here in Ames in Des Moines, Iowa. We've been here for about 21 years.
Okay. How do you spell your name?
Josephson.
Okay, awesome. So tell me a little bit about the issue with Lane 4.
I guess it all started, well, we first heard about it last spring. There was a lot of rumors. We weren't sure. I mean, we've been hearing since we've been in business the very first year that they were going to do remodeling the campus town. They wanted to do all sorts of things, whether it be turning Welch Avenue into a pedestrian mall or putting a clock tower up, whatever it takes. They were ready to do it, but it always had fallen through. So at first we didn't take it very seriously. We thought, well, it's just another plan and it's not going to make it and it's just going to go, you know, the way of everything else that's been going on. But we started hearing about meetings. We started hearing about get-togethers. They want to do kind of town hall things. That happened towards the end of the summer. Every time I went to see something like this, we went to two or three different meetings off the bat. I always got the idea that there's a lot of things being said, but no substance to it. And but it started to worry me a little bit. When you have people that want to do things and they don't give you any specifics, there's usually an ulterior motive to it. It's not, you know, their best interest is to make this project work, and to keep a lid on it to the very end is probably the best motive for them, because they want to make sure that nothing interferes with this. So with that in mind, we kept, you know, asking questions, we kept listening, but every time we went to one of these meetings, we just kept hearing the same rhetoric, and there was nothing specific said. And finally, just recently, we started hearing more and more from either our neighbors or from the CAA, which is the Campus Town Association here. And we were starting to be a little more concerned than we were with last spring. And with that, we decided, well, let's look into this. And we started going to more of the meetings. And just recently, we received a form letter asking us if we wanted to sell our game room. Our main store is owned by a Mary and Doris Haynes, and their daughters are the ones that are the caretakers of the property. And they've assured us that they weren't interested. And even recently, we had heard that Lane 4 had contacted them, and they refused to sell. They believe in Campus Town. They want Campus Town to stay eclectic. They want it to be more of the student feel to it, not a strip mall, not some kind of a big business mecca. They wanted it to stay as original to the original concept as they could get. So, listening to our landlady tell us that Lane 4 approached him, she basically said no, she wasn't interested. And at that point she said, well, what happens if no one sells? And they said, well, then we'll probably go to eminent domain. And I've been hearing eminent domain kicked around since last summer, and nobody's taken it really seriously, because usually eminent domain means that you're walking into a slum area. You're walking into a place that looks like it's ready to fall in on itself. You have drug problems, crime problems, everything just you can imagine stereotypically about a bad urban area is what you'd eminent domain. You don't eminent domain mom and pop businesses, churches, banks. You don't eminent domain an area because, well, you can't get the residents to sell to you. That's not what eminent domain's set up to be. And if the city tries to make everyone believe that this is an eminent domain situation, I don't understand. I mean, there's no danger to the community. If you walk around Campus Town, most of the businesses here are already filled. If they aren't, then you've got pretty much vacancies that don't stay vacant very long. Plus, you've got an area that's well kept by most of the property owners here. And we've been doing it for 21 years, so there has to be some rate of success here, or we wouldn't be here. We were told when we first came that no comic store will ever last in Ames. Well, we've proven that wrong. So I don't understand. I've read where Lane 4's come to talk to everyone. We've never talked to one of the Lane 4 people ever, except at the meetings when we ask a question. Never have been approached, not in person. The form letter is the same form letter that All Cuts got. It's the same form letter that other people in the area had gotten. The form letter was just pretty much, if you got till the 19th of this month to make up your mind. Well, we'd already made up our mind. We're not going anywhere. We'd prefer if the city would sit down with us and use the experience that we have, the 21 years being here in Campus Town, seeing the negatives and the positives, the businesses that have come and gone. I think we have a pretty good perspective on that, not city council members who basically probably never come down here very often, don't know what's going on, and the only thing they know of is it's a blight to them. They want it out of here. It's an eyesore. Maybe they've heard from their constituents, well, Campus Town, you know, with the Visha riots and all the problems. Well, you don't get rid of a problem by burying it. You solve the problem within. You build on that, and you make Campustown a better place to be. It's a student area. It is also an area for the Ames residents, but it's not one or the other. It's not, although it leans heavily towards students, it can still be an area for the city of Ames. And you can do that without trying to put a major restaurant like Ruby Tuesdays down here. That's a neat concept, but students can't pay $10 for a burger. And they're not going to pay $10 for a burger, especially when Iowa State themselves are competing with fast food over on their property. It makes no sense to bring more restaurants over here. The students are just going to go where it's cheap. In fact, now they even serve dinner on Sunday nights, so there's really no reason for them to come over here unless they're in the area shopping. And that leads to the other thing: there isn't much here for retail. Besides us and Grandma's Attic and the t-shirt shops, which are primarily, they operate off of big consignment projects. They don't really operate off of people walking in buying t-shirts. You go to Walmart for that. So to be honest, if they would put more retail in here and get that parking ramp started over on Hayward, you would see Campustown grow again. And that's the way it was when I first came to school here. It was a very eclectic place. It was a place where students wanted to hang out. It wasn't just bars, tattoo parlors, and Asian restaurants. There was a lot more variety. There isn't that anymore, and I think that needs to come back to Campustown, not bulldozing it.
Right. So at any point, you mentioned the Lane 4 people had contacted your landlord.
Right.
Were you contacted by
We've
the city or the university?
No, we've never talked to anybody from the city. We've never talked to anybody from the university. We've had people in here, but they won't say who they are, and you can tell they're out of place. I mean, you kind of get to know your clientele after a while, and unfortunately they weren't the typical comic book shop or game buyer. So you kind of know they've been looking around, but they've never said anything. So I have to get that, actually.